All right, we got the Evo back together. Sporty motor is pretty much good to go now. So obviously there's still lots of little doodads. We can do the intake, we can do ignition, and then the primary is completely disassembled still. We got the one socket on here so we can crank the motor over, tested all that. Everything seems to be working pretty good. Timer advance is still down there. So it's kind of on to the little odds and ends. I think what I want to do is start going through and clearing off a bunch of crap on the bench, clean up a little bit. I'll throw the plugs and stuff back in, but get this laid out and roughly set up to put the motor in the bike. And I haven't decided if I want to do this on the ground or if I want to try and wrestle the motor up here on the lift table. Either way, we got some cleaning up to do, move some of this crap out of the way, get this laid out, and then I'll make a decision on whether or not I want to wrestle the motor in down there or up here. It's going to be a pain in the ass either way, so maybe I can see if I got a buddy that wants to give me a hand with that. Just a little bit easier. As of late, I really like putting the motors in with just the bottom ends and then do the top end, because they're not getting any lighter the older I get, so we'll see. A little bit of cleanup. All right, well, unfortunately, this thing's not very light, and it's got to come off the bench if I do want to put the frame up and then lift it in, or I can get it on the ground and figure out if I want to heave-ho this thing into the frame. It's not going to be fun, so hopefully the mic doesn't break here. Oh, stupid Harley. Exhaust stud feels really good going into your forearm, I'll tell you that much. But now I got the motor back on the ground at least. I don't know if I want to do this on the lift. It's probably a little bit easier if I do have the bike up here. It'll save a lot more space, but that's a lot of heave-ho wrestling. So either way, I think I'm gonna... it looks so close right now. It looks like I can just lift this motor, turn it around, and slide it right into the frame, but I know that's going to be a pain. So decisions. I think I'm going to put the bike on the lift, and then I'll have to re-lift the motor back up onto the lift table, but can't get the bike on with the motor in the way, so let me do that. Half the battle. I don't know if this is going to be more or less work at this juncture, but at least now it's on the lift. I can heave-ho the motor back right here and then figure out... I wish I remembered how I took this apart last time. Motor slides out, it goes in much easier one way. I don't remember off the top of my head, so we'll probably get to do this 2 or 3 times, because that's exactly what I want to be doing on a Sunday afternoon. Oh well, time to start lifting. Let's see how strong I am now. Man, this part's not fun. Could make these motors a little bit lighter. For the guys doing this like me on their own. Clear some space here. Probably helps if we put it in the right direction at least. Oh, you guys might get blocked, but deal with it. Not really worried about your view. I'm struggling out here. Ugh. Man. Okay. Stay. Oh, that's not sketchy at all. One step closer. So now I got about 6 more inches to go up and try and drop this in. I might actually try calling Justice over. It is his bike after all. I feel like he should do the heavy lifting. So we're halfway there. Let me figure out what to do next. I'm guessing this isn't going to work out really well. I don't feel like waiting. So let's try and muscle this thing up and in. Find out real quick which way this has to go. Okay. Let's get everything out of my way. Probably would have been nice to do that first. All right. Almost there. Almost there. Hitting the head. Okay, so I'm stuck on the case now. If I lift up and push in just a little bit, we should be okay. Come on. Like that. Should have dropped in between the frames, I think. I'll just clock this thing over. What am I stuck on? Upper motor mounts wedged in the fins. Whoo! Getting there. Oil lines dangling out here. Electrical's clear. Oh, I didn't even bring the motor mount plates home from the shop, did I? Of course not. Why would you do such a thing? All right, I'm gonna get one of these rear motor mount bolts kind of started. There is a dowel pin on the case. I just don't want it tipping. So, I'd be lying if I said this was fun. Uppers are in, lower, come on. There's so many mounts and things that I'm missing right now. But upper bolt goes through on both. And come on, let me get one more started on the bottom. Of course. I got the stator wires that are wedged in between the case and this motor mount, so I don't want those there. Let me push those through. And we're pretty close on the dowel pins. Let me just take a little, there we go. Now, that seats in on the dowel pins on the rear frame, which is what you want. Should be able to get these bolts started. A couple threads here, which it is on the bottom. So I'll snug up the rears. I gotta run back to the shop and grab the front mounts here because I don't have any of those, but I always like starting with the rears anyway. Get that seated, and everything else will kind of drop into place around it. Slap these guys on and get this in. I think there's a whole box of parts I gotta grab from the shop actually for the rest of this bike on the install. Grab a 9/16 ratchet or wrench. We'll do final torques later on that. Oh, need a ratcheting. Do I have a ratcheting down here? Or can I get this started enough? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna take a seat because that got me hot and sweaty. Oh, the last time I used this, I used a 9/16 socket, a shorty, on a not 9/16 bolt. So this is one of those future me problems that I now get to deal with. She's pretty wedged in there. Now I'm going to spend 5 minutes trying to pound my socket free, which is a really efficient use of time. It actually wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. All right, getting there. Okay, rear motor mount stuff is in, motor's back in the frame. I feel like this is a win. I'm gonna wash up a little bit and now I can start laying out a game plan for the rest of this install. I do need to run over to the shop real quick. Maybe I'll keep jamming away on this first, maybe I'll do it after, I haven't decided yet. Well, decided to run up to the shop and grab the bin of parts I need. So I got the carb, chain, motor mount, exhaust, coil, all the other little doodads. Took the Falcon real quick because it was sitting in the driveway ready to go. Made it to the end of my street, got through the stop sign, and throttle cable decided to snap, so that's awesome. I'll have to deal with that later on today too, but right now it's Evo time, so we're gonna keep focusing on this. Odds are I'll probably get done with this and then forget about that and then go to drive it tomorrow and remember that I don't have a gas pedal. Oh well, that's what the truck's for, I guess. So I didn't need anything out of there yet except for the front motor mounts. Before I start doing all the accessories and plumbing, I do want to get the motor locked in first. So let me dig out the motor mounts and things out of the box and then set you guys up and we'll start jamming away on the front of it. For the motor mounts, I gotta remember how this works on an Evo because it's significantly different than an iron head. I have the lower mounts with bolts and stuff in them still, so I'm assuming these will bolt right back up to the bottom. Then we got this upper mount deal that goes to the front head, to the frame. I think that pinches through right here like so. And we might have to adjust and shim or move some stuff to make all of this work. So I think I'm gonna start with these lower plates. I'll take the bolts out of these first, get these kind of laid out and ready to go. And figure out which way these actually hook up. Something like that maybe? We'll see. Disassemble some stuff and see where they can jam these plates in. This one does have a fixed thread, so I'm assuming that's the one that goes back here. Like that. Yeah, that makes sense. I jam a bolt through here on this side and then we'll play around with the other side. So I got the lower mount there. I don't remember if that's a through one or not. But we got this one, so let's see. Go to the other side here. Kickstand's in my way, everything's in my way. So let's take these out. Looks like we got two shorties. I'm assuming that's for the frame. Like that, yeah. All right, well, let's loosen the hardware first and lay this out on the motor. Obviously, I'll come over and show you guys what I'm doing on this side in a minute, only because it's kind of a pain to film on both sides, and I got a box of parts over here that I'm sitting on right now that get in my way. So just get these started here on the frame mounts. So even though I locked in the rear, everything over here looks to line up pretty good on the front frame tabs at least. And it looks like we got a long one that comes through here. Does that go all the way through? Yes. And then one that should, in theory, and this is going to be the kind of hard one, the motor might have to wiggle a little bit to get this one through. Because this one should thread into the motor mount plate. Something kind of like that. We got a bolt here, bolt here. Then I gotta find the upper bolt for this motor mount plate. So that should kind of do it. Let me see what I got in the bin of parts over here. Looks like I'm short one bolt here. I need to find an upper bolt for this motor mount. I don't know where it went. Oopsies. And then it looks like we got the one down here on the oil line. That's gonna be kind of a pain to get to. Grab a ratchet, snug some of these up, I think, and then, all right, so that one's started now. I just gotta grab one bolt for up top. I think they're 3/8. I'll just throw a little 1-incher in there and then I'll probably get it, probably find the right parts later on when I'm not looking for them. I feel like that's usually how that goes. Lower ones are in, we just gotta snug everything up, and then one more up top. Should be good to go. Grab some hardware here. Come on. There we go. We'll do a lock washer too, just because we're professional like that. I don't think they really make that big of a difference. It's probably a great view right now, just looking at the back of my shoulder, but things get tight in here pretty quick. Now, grab our 9/16. I don't know what size this is on the inside. You're in front of my tools. 11/16. Can't be something convenient. That would be too easy. There's that one. This one's going to be kind of a pain to get to, so we'll come back to that. I'll go around to the other side now, show you what that side looks like. So this one should thread into the plate. On the other side, make sure that that grabs. And then here, however you can grab the back side. It's kind of a pain. Same deal here. I really don't make it convenient. So that's the one that goes into the motor plate, and then the last one is going to be a huge pain to get to, but we'll try and jam a wrench in from the bottom. All right, now we just got to do the top one, which is going to be a different size on this. So let me go around to the other side again, since I am replacing the hardware here. But a 9/16 is much easier to get in on the back side. Got my drill. Good. Then I'll go around and retorque that with the actual tools. Now, for the upper motor mount, this one's a little bit different. I can come over to your side. On the upper motor mount, we have a stud on the head right here, and the 2 bolts, and then a little tab plate. They're all fine thread on this, which isn't that big of a deal, but let me undo the hardware. This tab plate with the bolts welded onto it goes up into the frame section. So this is going to drop down up here. There's a little rail on the frame in front of the motor right there. And then the bolts are going to come up from the bottom into that one. And hopefully I can get this on. So get it started on your one stud end. Let me grab a nut real quick too. See if I got a fine thread one for that in here somewhere. So I didn't do that good of a job bagging and tagging or separating hardware on here. So that's good. Luckily I got a bunch of parts here, or hardware here. So that really shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's just slightly inconvenient. Found a pile of excess stuff just sitting in my bin over there. So I'm just throwing one bolt loosely on here right now just so I can get it shifted over and up. And then I'll drive this guy back around and get these started. Fortunate getting the first one going. Once the first one's in, they kind of like to stay where they need to. But you're fighting gravity here. I guess I could just throw a bolt on this side too. Make my life a little bit easier. That one actually grabbed. Now you got your first one in. The second one should thread a little bit better because it kind of keeps it in place. All right, let me find one more bolt for this side, because this one, it's bolted on one, it's studded on the other, and it's slotted, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there. Yeah, so coarse thread into the case. Hopefully this is the right one. Like that. Okay. There we go. Upper motor mount should be about good. I'm gonna re-snug all of the, of course I can't get to that one. I am gonna re-snug all of these up. I'm actually gonna throw a washer on this real quick too, just while it's apart. So you won't be able to get to the stud with the ratchet, so hand torque is fine. But now the motor mounts are all installed, so that's a good spot to be. We got the motor in, motor installed. Now it's on to the tiny, tedious little things. Oil lines, timing, intake, air cleaner, exhaust, sprocket cover, brake master, cluster thing that goes here. Then I got to figure out how I had all these oil lines routed. I didn't put the starter in yet, but the oil lines will run up from the pump underneath the starter, so I want to lay out the oil lines before I do that. Onto the oil lines. This was actually the cause of the problem with this motor. One of the oil lines was not flowing correctly. So I have everything we had hooked up already on here. So what I'm going to do is kind of lay this back out roughly the same way that it used to be. I think that should work just fine. But we're going to start at the back. This is our feed. Ooh. Not a lot of room here for the bolt. Let me turn the hose clamp around. So we'll start back here. Not going to be fun to tighten down. So at the back of the oil pump is where we're going to start. I don't know how I'm going to get this back over there. They should go through the underneath the starter. See how much room we have here without kinking this. I wonder if I can actually turn this fitting a little bit. Might make my life a little bit easier. See if I can get to it now that I put the hose on. I guess you guys probably can't see what I'm doing at all. Let's see if I can bring you guys around over here. Maybe that's a little bit better. So here's the oil line right here. There's the fitting. Let me see if I can get this to rotate a little bit. Which way do I want to go here? That's going to be ugly. I think we might be able to get through. You know what? Let me start up top. Let me see how much I can snake this thing down through the back side. You know what? Before I go any further, let me try and get that alternator wire hooked up. I got it pinched back here in between the cases. There's a little connector way down there. That's got to connect. I want to get that in before I start routing any of these wires because right now it's in my way. I got the alternator wire plugged down through. I didn't hook it up yet. That's underneath the bike. Not that big of a deal. But here's what we're doing on the oil lines. It's not the cleanest thing in the world. I don't absolutely love this design. But the oil tank itself is kind of goofy. So I got the oil line coming down underneath the frame rail here. It's looped back behind the sprocket cover. And up this way and over, which I don't know for sure if that's even going to work once we hook up the brake stuff. So let me check that real quick. I don't know how far in this seats. Yeah, so we got plenty of clearance there, so I will have one line right there. It shouldn't be too bad once everything's put back together and the starter's back in here. So we got our feed done and hooked up to the tank. We can kind of move this as needed, and this brace here, it's caught on the bolt here, and the sprocket should be okay there, especially once you get the sprocket cover on here. That chain won't be able to interfere with it because this bolt's right here. So I think we'll be all right on that. We'll check that when we get a little bit further, but there's our feed. And then our return is going to start up here. The return I am going to try and run underneath the starter. So this will come back through here, behind the cam chest. Hit yourself in the face with the hose, that's great. And this will run something like this. I might play around with the actual feed a little bit too and see if I want to do something different on the feed part, but as of right now, I'll crank these down, tighten up the feed and the return. Everything else is going to go from the oil pump forward into the oil filter housing, which is all pre-made lines, so we don't have to change anything there. We are going to have a vent back here behind the cam chest as well. And then I got a breather vent up on the top of the transmission that we'll just hook a little hose up and let it drop. So let me run the rest of these oil lines. We'll come back when it's done because it's not that much fun to watch. Oh, just kidding. I threw the chain on. I forgot he's running a big O-ring chain, so it was going to rub back here or too close for comfort. So I ended up doing a softer loop down here for the feed, and then up through, everything stays in this little chest area. Then I ran the vent from behind the cam chest as well. So you got your feed is this feed, return, vent. These will all get jammed and stuck underneath the starter. And when you put the cover on, it's going to keep all of these up and over. So we'll get those hooked up to the oil tank, and then I think I'm going to throw the starter in and at least put a couple bolts on the sprocket cover just so I know everything's going to stay where it needs to be. Let me get these cut and trimmed on the other side, hooked up to the tank, and we'll be back. Oil lines are done and routed. Obviously, there's a big blob of them right here. The starter's going to pull these down, and I'll have enough room to wiggle these around. So I got the vent hooked up back here, 5/16 line on there, 3/8 on the main feed and the return. So feed runs up to this port on this back hose. So we got a feed, we got a return, and we have our vent, which I kind of just looped in line, which comes up to the top of the oil tank on this design. Now, I got the chain resting on here. We're going to put the brake stay cover on too. Not permanently, but just get it on enough to kind of hold it in place. So we'll start the big bolt at the bottom. And we'll grab a couple 1/4 inchers. I don't know where the primary or the Allen head ones went, but I don't really care for right now. This will be good enough. Yeah, good enough. At least holds everything in place. So then we'll do just a little dump out guy here for our vent in the back. So we'll cut this guy off. And then this one's just gonna kind of land right in the hardtail section. Just as a vent, this one's not really that critical, but we'll jam that on here before we throw the starter on. Like so. It'll have a place to at least vent. And now we gotta grab the starter and see if we can mash all of these down without kinking anything. Make sure you hook up your starter before you do your primary. Ask me how I know that one. It was not a good day. Get the starter kind of set up in here somewhere. I think it goes like that. Let's see what we can do here. This will be a lot of fun. Trying to get this in over these factory hoses. I know that the stock ones typically are all routed underneath the starter, so in theory we should be about the same as a stock setup, or close. Or I'm going to realize right now it's not going to work this way and I'll be really upset and have to take all these apart and do it over again. I'll tell you one thing, it doesn't look very good right now. I hate Evo Sportsters. This looks a little better. Come on. I hope I'm putting this thing in the right way. Should just kind of line right up like this. So let's see if I can get a bolt started here. Doesn't seem to be very happy. Okay, let's go by hand. So I got the starter kind of jammed in place over here. Come along to this side. God, there's so much crap over here. Keep tripping. So I got the other side started. The bottom one's good. That one I feel good about. This one on the other hand. I don't love it. Okay. Let me grab a chase, clear the end of this, and then we'll start threading that in. All right, so the end of those starter threads were a little jacked up, so I ran a thread chaser to them. Everything's tightened up now, good to go. So we got the starter trigger down here, and then our hot side for the battery is gonna mount back here. Oil lines are all run and tucked out of the way. Plenty of room for sprocket clearance there. This one hose, technically, we can jam down a little bit farther if need be, but that's not gonna be an issue. When we run that ground, I'll kind of put that here and it'll rest right on top there, but that keeps it out of the way of everything important. I think that's where we're going to wrap up this video. I might keep working on this, but that'll make it into another one because I have way too much and I don't feel like trying to edit a 2-hour video. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll keep jamming away on this. Hopefully I get some more stuff on this, but we're getting closer. Hopefully by early next week we'll have this thing fired up and then you can take it home and get it out of my shop.